My way, or the highway, and in the driveway is a nice range. Cause I grind through the climb, I invite pain. You'll never hear me, bitch, nah, I don't complain. Just gotta flip the switch and you can go and obtain anything you want, anything you need. Your mind's got the key ingredient, it's belief. They deceive with the negativity, but I just slide right by that energy. Even when you feel low, you can still go. Even when you feel slow, you can still go. Even when there's no hope, you can still go. I never answer to no, man, I still go. Go, 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 go.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Gallop Out. I'm your host, Ryan, joined by my usual co-host, Jackson Muniz. Jackson, how you doing today?
Doing great, man. How you doing?
Doing well. I don't know if you noticed, I changed the intro. So it's no longer Mixto up there.
Oh.
It is now Pavlovian. So
I did not notice. I was on another screen. I'll have to go back and look for it.
This guy stinks. All right. Anyway, the show's not going to be just you and me today. We're going to be going through Friday's Turf Pick 3 at Keeneland. We're going to be joined by Mr. Keeneland himself, Noah Maher, and from DRF, local West Coast guy like the three of us, it's Gino Buccola. Gino, Noah, how are you guys doing today?
Doing all right.
Always happy to join you fellas, and when I do, I got to rock my my Lakers shirt just so we can be sporting the West Coast.
Oh, yeah.
It's not going to be an easy week coming up for the Lakers with the injuries, but we'll still be rooting. We're rooting hard for our guy LeBron, Ryan.
That's right. We got to root for LeBron always. No.
What did they finish? They finished as the 4 seed?
Yeah, they were right behind Denver for the 3-4, and so they'll be playing Houston, which is a bummer because if that would have been a great matchup for them with Luka and Austin, they would have been favored against Houston in that 4-5 matchup. But at least you get a couple home games. If you're going to steal one, I think you maybe can do it at home if LeBron can go back to the older years and you get a few of the guys to hit threes. But I mean, it's probably going to be like a 4-1 Houston series with the injuries now, which is a bummer.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, anything can happen though. So you got to play the games to find out. Much like they got to run the races to find out who wins. We're going to go through that Turf Pick 3 at Keeneland. If I'm not mistaken, they have a Turf Pick 3 every day this week, starting tomorrow, which is just fantastic. Noah, how's the weather looking out there?
It's been great. Self-esteem is pretty low just because we're taking some hits to the wallet, and it's been a rough week so far. They've had 7 race days. They got 9 left, but we're gonna hit the halfway stretch, and we're gonna bounce back, and hopefully it starts here on Friday.
Have you cashed a ticket yet?
Yeah, actually, I had a profitable Sunday, which shouldn't be a surprise.
So why is your self-esteem low? You ended the week on a high note.
I did. And then I bet Parks and the whole thing. And so, it went right back down.
What happened at Parks? I don't remember. Refresh my memory.
We can talk about it another time.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead and refresh everybody's memory as we're live on YouTube right now. But no, we'll dive on into the Friday Turf Pick 3. Gino, have you been participating out at Keeneland much? So how's the meet been so far?
Yeah, so far so good. And one of the best trends right now in horse racing is all these tracks picking up these higher dollar minimums, low takeout, late pick threes, $3 turf pick threes, late pick fives, $5 or late pick doubles, $5 doubles, those kinds of wagers. They're awesome because it's just harder to hit pick fours and pick fives, right? We all love to play those. We all take our swings, but I think the way that we play too, the way that I play, I'm not playing a lot of favorites. It's hard sometimes to string 5 winners together when you're doing that, when you're looking at horses in the 5 to 15 to 1 range, right? They're going to win just a little bit less often. You can win more when you play some of the doubles and the pick threes like we are. You get an opportunity to really key in on the good races. I think we have 3 really tough turf sprints, right, that we're going to be talking about. They are not easy. Those are probably the most difficult races for me to handicap, turf sprints, because they're just wide open. The pace can be crazy. A lot of different things can happen. Different turf courses, like 5 and 5.5 are way different than 6.5 at Santa Anita, right? So you can get very different style turf courses, but I had a lot of fun handicapping this sequence.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. You brought up a great point. Turf sprint's probably the most difficult type of race to handicap just because it can be over at the break for your horse. If your horse is a speed type, you also have the question mark of if your jockey's going to wrangle this horse that breaks on top down to dead last. And you might not get the job done there. That seemed to have either Jackson's coughing or laughing at the reference that I just made. But either way, we're not going to waste any more time. We'll go into race number 5, leg 1 of the $3 Turf Pick 3. And Gino, you shouted out the fact that these tracks are kind of adopting these higher minimum wagers. It started at Keeneland and Jim Goodman with the $3 Turf Pick 3. So we certainly have him to thank for that. Gino, we'll start with you as we're going 5.5. Let me have this scroll so it doesn't cover up your face. But we're going to start with the turf pick 3. You're going to use the 2, 5, 7, and 9 in here. So who's your top pick? And then we'll talk through all 4 of the horses you'll be using.
From a price standpoint, I put the 5 Expressway on top. This is a horse whose first 2 races were sprinting on the turf, and they were both very good. This horse sat a nice trip and won a career debut in a field of 10, then came right back, and they put this horse in the grade 3 Futurity in the second start and didn't run all that poorly. Following that, you have 3 races that are not turf sprints. So the last 3 races, we have a race going long. That was in October. That was before a layoff of 4 months. Comes back in February and actually runs pretty well against Shipmate the first time off the bench, and then faced a tougher group of stakes company on the synthetic. I think this is a good spot. Third start of the form cycle, you're getting back to a turf sprint, and this horse's form is a little bit muddied up because of those 3 consecutive non-turf sprints that just don't look quite as good on paper. I mean, if we're projecting this horse on speed figures as well, and we're looking back when he was running a 75 in his second start in October of last year, if he's improved at all and turf really is his surface, he's up in the 80s, low 80s at the very least here, just based on that improvement. So I think he's a bit under the radar and could horse that comes closing. He's probably going to need a little bit of a trip in here. But I'm looking at, Longshoreman, Ambitiously, Murdoch, I think will all be pushing the pace at the very least. It could set up really nicely for a horse like Expressway. And John Velasquez, like every time I look up, it's like, oh, John Velasquez won another stakes race. Oh, John Velasquez won another one. It's like he's winning it 25, 30% early on at Keeneland, the first week or 2 of the meet. So just lots of positives there. And then what's kind of interesting, the 2 and the 5 are actually half siblings to each other. You don't see that all too often. 2 horses in the same race, half siblings, different ownership and everything. But I actually think they both have a little bit of a shot. I could see Ambitiously sitting like 3rd down inside if it doesn't get shuffled back all that much. 2 starts back, lost to a horse named Sinister 6 at Turfway. That horse just came back at Keeneland last weekend, finished 2nd, going 1 mile in a first level allowance race with an 84 buyer. So I think a lot of times the speed figures at Turfway Park are just lighter, right? Horses don't run as fast on the synthetic as they do on dirt surfaces or on turf surfaces. So generally the buyer speed figures are lighter, but the racing at Turfway the last 2 years has been so good. Horses exit Turfway, they always outrun their odds. They always punch up. So I generally like playing horses like that. These are the 2 for me that are a little like outside the box, a little like off the radar. 2 and 5, they'll definitely be in the mix for me. The others were super logicals, like the 7 and 9, Pivotal Moment and Longshoreman. I think I'm going to try to beat Murdoch in here, who I feel like is going to take a little bit of money off that big buyer speed figure last time out.
Yeah, I like it. You brought up a lot of great points. Yeah, Expressway and Ambitiously being half siblings. The Turfway form, our buddy Chris Couples is in here. He got out of the ice cold storage on Saturday, so Noah's next. But Chris tells us all the time that those figures that he will make at Turfway, they change so often just because of the track variance and the way it plays. And so you brought up a great point that horses often punch up leaving there, and they continue to run hard. Noah, you're not trying to beat the favorite. You're going to use 3-7 in here. So go ahead and talk about the number 3 Murdoch, or your top choice if that's the number 7.
Yeah, I think top choice, I'd probably go to the 7. I'd talk about the 3 first, Murdoch, who I'd be a little more against if the time form number didn't necessarily line up with the buyer number, because that's a pretty big buyer number just compared to what we've been seeing from the rest of the field. Gino talked about the 2, who I thought's got a pretty decent shot. Capped about high 70s right now, the 5 mid 70s, and even the rivals to the outside, maybe some low 80s. So just the 96 stands out like a sore thumb, and it's just a question of whether he's going to run back to that. But like I said, the time form aligns pretty well. It's also second off of a long layoff. I think he's going to be forwardly positioned in what seems to be a pretty good spot, going 1 turn on this Keeneland turf course. Top pick to the 7, Pivotal Moment for Miguel Clement and Joel Rosario. Just look at his 2 races with Lasix. I mean, they're head and shoulders better than anything else he's ever run. He's also second off the bench, broke a little slow last time. I think obviously the 5 furlongs down in South Florida is going to be a little bit different just in terms of dynamics than the 5.5 year at Keeneland. And if Gino's right and they kind of speed things up front, it's definitely going to set up for this runner.
He looks just certainly so good on paper, right? Just like on paper, everything about him looks like he's going to run a good race here.
Yeah, it does. And if he runs back to that, you don't see a horse win by 4 lengths over the Gulfstream Park turf course going 5 furlongs, especially not from off the pace the way he did. Jackson, we'll go to you next. You're using a couple horses, the 2 and the 9. I'll have you start with the 9 Longshoreman, a horse we haven't talked about yet for Pratt and Wesley Ward.
Yeah, kind of interesting that Flavien Prat riding for Wesley Ward here. They don't team up too often, but when they do, they obviously do very well. And I don't really think Wesley's going to waste a call to Pratt. So I got to think this horse is going to be ready to go for his 3-year-old campaign. It is a tough spot facing olders this time of year in April, but this horse ran very well last year, especially in that race at Aqueduct in October. He did not break well at all. It says he stumbled, and he also was like a length or two slow out of there. Kind of had to rush up to make the lead, and then tired, but still held on for second. Number came back strong, working really well on the dirt. I think I was not able to watch the turf works, but the work on the 22nd, he looked really good on the dirt. And it looked like they were teaching him to rate a little bit, which, you know, can only come in handy if they need to do that from this outside post. Lay 6, I think there's a lot to like, and 6 to 1's a good price.
6 to 1 is a good price. Anything to add on the 2 ambitiously?
No, just that the time form numbers are significantly faster than the buyer. I think they're about 10 points faster, roughly, or at least one of them was. So one that's probably going to be 4th place. And it's not like the turf races were that bad either. They came going 2 turns. Another one that looks pretty interesting. And I would probably add Gino's pick of the 5 in as a backup, because I do think there's a decent chance this pace collapses. But I'll admit this, I really didn't know what to do with a 3 horse in this race. And his presence in here is kind of going to make me approach this one a little bit lighter from a turf pick 3 perspective. So I'll take a couple shots with a couple prices in here. And if I'm wrong, I'll just come back and play the late pick 3. That's also $3.
There you go. I like it. I'll talk quickly about my ticket. I'm singling the 3 Murdoch in here. I love the comeback race for Larry Ravelli. Obviously, this is a 4-year-old against some other 3-year-olds in here. That number, as Noah pointed out, was backed up by the time form, so it wasn't something that was typically kind of a one figure, depending on what you use. The time form also came back very strong. I think that, he closed well from off the pace, and I do think that there's a fair bit of speed in here. So I'd anticipate a similar ride. Sophia Vives retains the mount, who I thought gave a great ride last time. And I think you're going to get a better price than, what was that, about 7 to 5 that you got last time. So I'm going to single Murdoch in here, but I don't disagree with anyone's thoughts to try and beat this horse in here. But second off the layoff and keeping Lasix are a couple of green flags for me, especially for Larry Ravelli, who's an excellent sprint trainer. We'll keep things moving on. We'll go to race number 8, another turf sprint. So get used to that, because that is the theme of the day. Gino, we'll throw it back your way. You're going 4 deep, the 1, 6, 9, and 10. Who's your top pick here? And then take us through your picks.
Yeah, I'll start with the 6 straight cash. I think in all 3 of these races, I'm trying to beat what I think might be the morning line favorites. Now, I will say, making the morning line at Keeneland is not a job I would ever want. It is really tough. Like, there are a lot of races where you're looking at horses that are 8 to 1 that could go to 7 to 2 real quickly, or vice versa. So it's not always the easiest. Like, this is one of these horses who I wouldn't be shocked if they got bet a little bit, right? The career debut was very good. It was a turf sprint at Santa Anita back in March of 2025, won that day. And following that, stepped up, but it was a few months later. So already you could see there was probably some kind of an issue, because wins, and then immediately horses aren't going to go to the bench off of a win like that, right? So off for a few months, changes barns, and when shows back up in the Cherie DeVoe barn, they went long on the grass at Saratoga. That race on July 18th, the winner of that race, Simulate, is grade 2 placed. The 3rd place finisher of that race, Plensa, is a stakes winner. That was a really, really strong race that day. The 5th place finisher was a horse named Fawn Farewell, who you see just beat the 1 at Lull, is in the past performance running lines for that horse. And the 6th place finisher is a horse named Asbury Park, who's a grade 3 winner. So that was a loaded race that straight cash was in. It was also a race going long, and a race where this horse just completely missed the break and had no shot that day. So I think you can put a line right through it. Came back on the synthetic last time out, lost to a horse named Mo Quality, who went gate to wire. So there was no passing in that race. And now it's kind of like a starting over point. You get a few months off and you get to go back to what you did first time out. That worked well for you. Let's go back to a turf sprint. I like that. I know he can pass horses. He can finish. So I'm going to give straight cash, the 6, a big shot there. I mentioned the 1 at Lull, who it's hard to use a horse who blows a 3-length lead like that last time out. Like, I generally don't like horses who have that big advantage and they can't finish it. But I do think the cutback will really help. The lone turf sprint for this horse was a win. That's the only win that this horse has in his career, was sprinting on the turf, going 6.5 at Kentucky Downs. And the horse he lost to, Fawn Farewell, is a pretty nice horse. Has won 2 of 4 with a close second. Would probably be favored in this race if Fawn Farewell was in here. So I went 6-1, 9. Ryan, isn't that the area code down there? 619.
619, that's it.
Shout out to Rey Mysterio doing the 619. We got WrestleMania coming up this weekend. Uncle Bucky is a price horse, so I think it's a little bit interesting. I generally don't like to use the 3-year-olds at this time of the year against older, but I don't think there's any monsters in this race. Like, nobody really scares the heck out of me. I think it's very competitive, but no 1 or 2 horses that I'm like terrified of. Uncle Bucky debuted sprinting on the turf, then tried a tougher group and had no shot because they had trouble that day in the Indian Summer at Keeneland. And the 3 starts since on synthetic, they've all kind of gotten a little bit better, and he's actually faced some decent horses in there. And I'll use the outside horse, Unitas, the 3-time MVP, the 10-time Pro Bowler, one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, Johnny Unitas. There we go. 1, 6, 9, 10.
I like it a lot. I had a little bit of everything in that analysis from Gino.
That's the thing you get. You never know where horse racing will take you, what the name is going to be. We could be talking about, like, Marvel. We could be talking about the Dodgers. We could be talking about anything with different names. So that's what's great.
And Gino, one of my favorite references is whenever Walking in Memphis runs.
Oh, yeah, because I'm walking in Memphis. You got to sing it. Anytime that horse comes in, even if you're just mentioning it. So you got to always make sure that you're saying walking in Memphis.
I'm going to remember that. So Noah is forced to sing that the next time that
there we go.
runs and we
now
talk
you're
about
on
it.
Yep, you're on the hot seat now.
No, you're not going to get that out of me.
We'll see. No, we're going to go to you, though. We'll dive down to the rail to talk about At Law, the horse you'll be singling in this spot.
Yeah, I like this horse quite a bit. And it's a little bit of I've just got some small question marks about some of the other shorter prices. I know Beer Run is 1 for 12, which obviously is, in the grand scheme of things, is a big red flag. But even since he got the maiden victory, completed down at Kentucky Downs, I thought his race here at Keeneland, he had every chance to go by Our Starry Night and then didn't even get second in that spot. It has been seen for a while. He's going to be a short price just coming out of the Wesley Ward barn. Going to the 6 would probably be a B for me. But since you haven't seen him run that 83 buyer back at the beginning of March of last year, where has he been, where we haven't seen that effort? The other Wesley runner, Double Talker, I just don't have a ton of interest in. It hasn't been on the grass yet. And then all the way to the outside, United. It's just a tough post from out there. Faced 2 short fields down at the fairgrounds. Just kind of everything that I've mentioned has kind of led me back to the one at Law, who Gino said I thought ran into a pretty decent horse that he got beat by last time in Fawn Farewell out of the Walden barn. Not to mention the horse that he got beat by, but the horses that he was kind of chasing in that fast pace were Where You At Vince, who ran a 97 buyer earlier in the meet down at Turfway. And then the horse that finished last, those 2 horses finished second to last and last, respectively. Last place finisher Chado, I thought, came back and ran respectfully. I think it was 3rd on Grade 1 Gamble Saturday in the opening race there. So it feels like the field that he faced that day was legit. You go all the way back to when he was in the barn at Bill Mott as a win over the turf down at Kentucky Downs. So that was a pretty convincing victory. That was the second time that he had been on the grass. And even the race here, when he went 2 turns, I think at this point in his career, it's pretty solidified that 2 turns is just not his thing. That race looks a lot better now than it did back in October. Tenacious Leader and Montador. It's a pretty nice horse of some graded stakes type that we've seen so far earlier in 2026. So, if there's one horse that I'm going to be betting on Friday, it's going to be the one At Law.
Noah, do you know what At Law means? Do you know what that is?
No idea.
You're on the hot seat again. It's a spear thrower. That was the name for it. So it was like the device they'd put a spear in and they would use it to launch spears at people. So
can I do it up? Is that possible?
Learn something new every day. I looked that up yesterday because I was like, what's an At Law? So I was looking it up and I was like looking at the pedigree and stuff. I was like, oh, okay, cool. Now we know. So you get history class along with some horse racing previews for the Keeneland Turf Pick 3 on Friday.
And some singing. You get a little bit of everything around here.
Yeah. And honestly, a Rey Mysterio shout out.
You get your money's worth. You really do. That's the thing.
That's absolutely true. You get your money's worth on this free-to-watch YouTube show. So I do encourage everybody to tune in. Jackson, anything to add as you are also singling the one At Law?
No, you guys kind of took all my points, so that's okay. Just to add to what Gino said about blowing the 3-length lead last time, I will say it was a fast pace. The other speed horses finished 20 lengths up the track, and he was the first one to attack that pace and try to break that race open. So I think I can be a little forgiving that he got a little tired late, cut back to 5.5 to do him some good. And as these guys said, the two times he sprinted, once on the synthetic and once on the turf, were his two best races. So I think he's got a huge shot in there. I actually kind of view him as the horse to beat because I don't trust the Wesleyan here at all.
You know, and Jackson, the thing, what I noticed too, there was a moment when the rail opened wide up and Morales was just, I'm going to take it right now.
Yeah.
And he probably moved a little bit early, but if you're in that situation and it opens up, you got to go right then.
Yeah.
You absolutely do it. So yeah, if it's run back again and he doesn't get that rail and he has to kind of wait and move to the outside, maybe he wins the race where he doesn't open up as early on. I'm not holding it very much against him like you were, because the way the race shape was, the field and everything, like it doesn't bother me quite as much as that situation would it if we saw him do it repeatedly, right? Over and over, blowing leads like that.
Agreed.
Yeah, I share that with you. First move into a fast pace is always something I'm willing to forgive. As you can see with my picks, that's not it. That's the Maker's Mark Mile, and that was a shit show. I went 1-9-10 here. I did want to use the number 1 at Lull. Gino, you mentioned the number 9, Uncle Bucky, who I also included on my ticket. I thought, if this race were to kind of blow up and fall apart in any sense of the word, I think this is the horse that's shown some improvement and seems to have that Turfway kind of look of a horse that could step up in a big way here. And then the last one to mention, the number 10, Unitas. I know Drew why, but with Flavien Prat, and this horse does have a fair bit of early speed, I thought that could be used to his advantage. Pratt's obviously never going to take anything away from a horse. I thought he could get forward here. I think the number 3 Beer Run is the second fastest on time form figures, but this horse rarely finds himself on the front end. So it wouldn't surprise me at all to see Unitas leading them into the far turn, and we'll see if he can get the job done. So I went 1-9-10 in the second. Go ahead, Gino.
As you pointed out with Unitas, the good turf race last time out. If you didn't watch his debut, if you look and see the comment line, it says bumped bite. So at the top of the lane, he's on the outside and he's kind of trying to pin a horse to the inside, to him inside, and they both come together and kind of bite at each other, like savage each other. You only see it happen like rarely in races, but when you see it, it's like, oh wow. So you can see it in that debut at the top of the lane. So just kind of cross that out, because like when that happens with horses, a lot of times they lose all their focus. They're so focused on biting the horse next to them that they're not worried about the race at all. And he comes back and he wins his next one. But it's always funny when you see something random like that in the comment lines, like bite, slow bumped bite. And he did. He took a little, tried to take a little chunk out of his rival there.
Yeah, obviously
wanted the stake race.
Forense Fire.
Yeah, Forense Fire.
Forense Fire, and was it the Forgo?
Yeah, one of those New York races.
Yeah.
And it was Forense Fire. Was it Yaupon that he was against?
Yeah. I think Forense Fire, if he didn't do that, he probably would have won the race.
Oh, he definitely would have won.
I singled Yaupon, so I was really happy to see that.
Yeah, because like I said, they take like their energy goes at the horse instead of in front. You could even see in that one particular one you're talking about where you could see the horse like angle to the other horse instead of going forward, right? And it's like, oh, well, I lost. Boom.
That was one of those. That was a crazy race to watch. But yeah, you got to pay. You can absolutely draw a line through the debut with the savage attempt there on debut, and came right back out to step up on the grass. We'll go to the third and final leg of this turf pick 3, 5.5 furlongs. Nothing new for us. This one made in special weight company. Gino, we'll go back to you. You're going too deep. You're going with the 5 and the 7. Who would you like to talk about first?
Yeah, I think I'm going to try to beat the Ward horses in here, who I feel like will take a little bit of money. You got She Wants War, who has been a beaten favorite already, who has been 2-1 or under twice and been defeated. And then right next door, you've got Fool's Adventure. And I think those two will take a lot of money as expected. This is what Ward does really well. These, young, precocious horses sprinting on, turf races. I didn't love either one of them. Like, I didn't think either one of them are completely overwhelming. There are 2 horses in here who I'm intrigued by, and I think they'll be the next tier of prices. So I'm going to focus on those 2. Start with the 5, Amani's Music, who debuted on the synthetic sprinting. It was 5 furlongs, and this gal drew the rail, so she was a little bit forced. So I'm not sure if she's necessarily like a need the lead type, because she drew the inside, they went on with it, and she was forward that day. I could see her sitting off the pace a little bit, sitting outside of, She Wants War or some of the other horses who showed speed. The horse who I like the most is Twirling Claire, the 7, who she did not get the greatest trip last time out. March the 5th, she actually had a pretty good start. She was down inside and she backed off to 4th, and then she got shuffled back badly. She ended up like 3 lengths off. She had to angle out at the top of the lane. She's in the 5 path, and as she's closing, her rival to her inside is pushing her out more and more into the center of the racetrack. Like, she's way closer to the outer rail than she was to the inner rail that day. She actually got put up to 2nd via DQ that day. So I just think she's moving in the right direction. Where she's drawn, I could see her sitting a beautiful trip. This would be a horse I thought about even singling. Like, if you're someone who plays on a budget where I'm going to put up a ticket that's $96. If that's too much for you and you need to cut that thing in half and you want to single a horse in this last race, this would be the horse I like most, and I would be fine trying to get to Twirling Claire, who I think will be in that like 7-2, 4-1 range. But I do think will probably be at least the 3rd choice in here.
I completely agree. I think you're looking at least the 3rd choice in a race like this. It's very deep, and Wesley Ward is always going to take money in these maiden races. So Jackson, I'll go to you because you're going to single the 7, I guess, in your turf pick 3 here. You added some parentheses to get a little cute, so I'll let you explain those as well. But you're going to single Twirling Claire here.
Yeah, and I apologize. I missed the first half of Gino's case for this horse. So if I'm just repeating your points, well, oh well.
Great line, single leg.
I think the most recent race was good because she showed speed from the inside, and she kind of was in a tricky spot. Like, they couldn't decide, should I shoot through or should I sit the pocket? And eventually they kind of sat the pocket heading into the turn. And then the horse that was in front of her kind of backed up into her, and she lost even more ground than she probably wanted to originally. And then, as Gino said, she had to swing wide around the turn, and there was some bumping going on in the stretch, and just wasn't overall an ideal trip. And now she finds herself in a race where she's drawn outside of all the main speeds, and she does have plenty of speed herself. So I think she's just going to break. She's going to tuck in right behind them, and she'll have every opportunity to go by those horses. Second start of her career, basically paired up to buyer tops, especially for a trainer like Greg Foley, whose horses typically get better with more racing. So I think we're going to see a peak performance out of her, and I have no problem singling her in this spot because I just think these other favorites in here, the Wesleys, are okay. The Cox horse is just okay. Like, I mean, am I going to be surprised if they win? No. But am I really that excited about them? Also no. So I'm going to single Twirling Claire in here. And then I'm going to back up for a little bit with a couple bombs in here because I'm not going to be shocked if this race completely blows up. I'm going to use the 1 and 12. Both of them are 30-1 in this spot. And if they win, it's going to, this pick 3 is going to pay massive.
I like it. Backing up with a couple of huge long shots. Noah, we'll go to you next. You're going with the 2 Wesley Ward horses. And of course, then with the best trainer in all the land when it comes to Keeneland racing in the number 9. But I'll let you get to that one after you talk about the 2 Ward horses you have on your ticket.
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend this in terms of ticket structure. The only reason I put the 2 and the 3 both on there is because I think I have a sneaking suspicion that he will scratch one of them. Wesley will scratch one of them because the 4 or the 3 is one of the lone 4-year-olds in the race, and she hasn't been seen since July. I don't know if this is actually going to be the comeback spot for her or not. And the other one's the first-time starter down to the inside who, they paid a lot of money for. I watched her work. I think it actually was the morning of opening day, where it was just in the pouring rain. And I thought she looked fine. Rosario goes there. And I also kind of believe that to be a fact just because they drew right next to each other. So if one of those 2 is scratched come post time, I wouldn't be all that surprised. And I'm not, super against either one of those. I think both of them have a little bit of talent. The 3 ran, I think, either a 103 or 107 time form all the way back in June, which is just, if she runs back to that, she would smoke this field. But outside of those 2, Ryan, you made a good point. I mean, Gino brought up earlier, talk about Johnny V being successful in some graded stakes races as of recent. How about Ben Colebrook? I mean, he took down the Lexington with Trendsetter, and then Percy's Bar ran absolutely massive to springboard her into the Kentucky Oaks here in a couple weeks. And I liked what I saw from this filly in the mornings too. They paid $110,000 for her. This was actually a homebred for Ben and John. I don't know how John is related to Ben, but a gentleman by the name of Robert Shadle put up $110,000 to be part of that, and the Colebrook's also part of that as well. We might not see her on Friday, but if we do, I'd like to have her on some tickets.
Yeah, I don't hate your case at all. Go ahead.
Tim's been ignoring my text, so I'm assuming he didn't cash on Colebrook at that's 30-1.
Well, he actually is on the plane right now, so if you texted him recently.
Oh no, this was Saturday as soon as it happened.
Okay, well then he's probably just pissed over the weekend because it did not go well for him.
I love it. Good cases by Noah. I'm going 3-7-9 to end the turf pick 3. I actually think She Wants War is the one who will remain in. I don't like the work tab or the consistency of the works for the number 2 Fool's Adventure. I feel like has missed bits and pieces of time, has a bit of an irregular work schedule, a little too many red flags. Even though the dam did win first time out, I'm not sold on that one, even if she does stay in the body of the field. She Wants War. Noah, rather, you mentioned the figures that she ran as a 3-year-old last year, and they would absolutely smoke this field. I think Wesley Ward, as you can see, he always comes to Keeneland ready to fire. You do get his top guy in Johnny V aboard this horse, or at least named on this horse. He's done a lot fewer of the naming random jockeys. I haven't seen P-Val named on any of his horses, or Pat Day or anything like that. So I like that he's going back to just naming the jockeys who are actually going to ride the horse in the race. But I thought the 3 She Wants War definitely deserved a look. Twirling Claire, you guys mentioned, didn't get the best trip last time out. I really love how the fairgrounds form on turf has transferred over to Keeneland. I think they're relatively similar turf courses in terms of the cut of the grass. So I think it's you can make a little bit more of a comparison there than you can with the likes of Gulfstream Park. And then the number 9, Swirling Seas. The dam also won first time out for this one. She is cross-entered, as Noah mentioned, as you can see on the screen there. But I thought if she gets in, Ben Colebrook obviously has his horses pointed towards this meet all year. So I didn't want to leave this horse out where I thought there was maybe a little bit of precocity in there, even if winning first out on turf isn't something he typically does.
Hey, Ryan, have you walked the turf course at fairgrounds before?
No, I have not.
So you're just assuming?
I have seen the grass up close. I have seen the
Like
grass
on TV,
of course.
Okay.
And you can tell.
Just
I mean,
asking.
watch a race at fairgrounds and then watch a race at Gulfstream. They're kicking up sand like they're at the beach at Gulfstream.
I'm just
They're not
asking
doing
questions
that
here.
at
I'm just
fairgrounds.
asking
I
questions.
know you're just
Have you
asking
watched the
questions.
Gino one?
Of course,
Okay.
many times. I missed the winner circle being on there.
I know. They really need to change that. That pisses me off.
They do. Yeah. And by many times, I mean like 4, but still, that's enough times. And also, I walked.
Yeah, I was 11. They did the Santa Anita. They do the race, the Derby Day race, and you run around the track, right? So you finish there. So when the kids, they just do the full lap around the track, and I was all pumped and excited, and I finished, and then I just threw up a bunch. So I can always remember like being right by the rail, and I was just like throwing up afterwards. Go hard, right? You got even when you're 11 years old at the Derby Day race.
Absolutely. I mean, I was watching the 5K last week because Santa Anita Derby Day was going on, or a couple weeks ago, whenever that was. And some kid, as they went and ran their lap, blew the turn. I mean, completely. Ooh. I mean, that's one you're going to want to bet back out of that spot for sure. I think blinkers on, maybe. No, but
hey, real quick, while we have Gino here, Gino, is that horse in the background behind you? Is he going to win on Saturday?
Oh, here we go. This one. This guy right there.
Yeah.
Nice. There you go. Right. Win? I think so. How about that?
So.
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah. And like a pretty. Should be a fair price.
Yeah.
Right. Is it journalism? I imagine. I see that's journalism in the background.
From comparatively speaking, he's not going to get, hit like Sovereignty will. But the only thing that's funny is on the projector, like if you look at Timeform US, I know you guys pull it up a lot. It actually says most of the time when there's not a lot of pace, it'll say like favors front runners, slow pace. It says no speed in this particular race. Yeah. You think if that's the case, is it maybe a Barrio that goes from the inside and tries to go? Is he good enough? Or in a race like that where there's no speed, does it even matter if everybody's within a couple lengths, right? If like nobody separates and they're all within each other, then the pace doesn't really matter all that much. But man, it's cool. We got some of the heavy hitters coming back for another year, and it's going to be a really fun weekend. I'm excited.
Me too. I love that we didn't have to wait that long to see the Sovereignty journalism match as a 4-year-old that we all wanted to see. It's going to happen in both of their debut races as 4-year-olds. Who do you like in there? Do you like journalism? I imagine. I think it's a betting race if you're trying to go against Sovereignty.
I've always preferred journalism, and I don't think he's like the better horse, right? Like Sovereignty's been the better horse. I've kind of personally liked journalism a little bit, and I've always thought he could do a little bit better against him in the head-to-head matchup than they've done, whether it be like a closer margin of victory or just kind of try to time it a little bit better, where he does kind of get a couple lengths on him. We'll see how it goes. I've always leaned a little more personally, but Sovereignty has just been incredible. From when I watched his workouts, he did look like it was taking him a little bit of a time to get back to being Sovereignty, but his last like workout or two looked really, really good. So I go back and forth. From a gambling standpoint, I do think that if they're evenly matched and you get a much better price on journalism, that's the direction that I would always go.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's going to be a fun race to watch, even if you're not betting on it. You have the 7-year-old White Barrio, and then you have the two 3-time Grade 1 winners in 2025 in Sovereignty and Journalism facing off against each other. Noah, anything to add on that or the Turf Pick 3 that we covered before we get up out of here?
No, in terms of that race, the Oaklawn Handicap on Saturday, I'm just going to be a spectator. I really have no interest in betting, but it's just going to be fun to see those two return and duel it out for round 3.
There you go. Their winner circle is on the turf for their winners of the stake races. So, Keeneland, take notes. Bring that back because I missed that. That was a ton of fun. So was this going over the Friday Turf Pick 3 at Keeneland. Gino, thank you for joining us. Noah, thank you for joining us. Jackson, thank you as always for being my excellent co-host. We will see you guys next time here on the Gallop Out.